Welcome to this week's episode. It's me again, being solo next week, and for a few weeks we'll have guests with us because I am recording three guest episodes next week. So, very, very excited about that. So, today I'm going to be talking about somebody who has zero to do with horses. Never rode competitively, probably did ride in his lifetime, but is certainly not known for any horse association whatsoever. But he does have a phenomenal way of thinking, a very, very philosophical. So, some fabulous insights from him in just a moment. So, last time I said that because I was thinking very much about pay it forwards, I was thinking about people who write lovely 5-star reviews for me, that I would have a very special workshop on July the 10th on Zoom with those people. So you've got plenty of time till July the 10th to write your 5-star review if you feel that this podcast warrants it and you feel moved to do so. And we will have a 1 hour workshop on Zoom together, doing techniques that usually I reserve for my private clients, not discussed on the podcast. So if you do have any kind of self-doubt or riding nerves or anything to do with your mindset that just needs a tweak, do have a little think about whether or not you would like to write that 5-star review and come and join me in a private and very exclusive workshop. Um, if you do write the review, please email me. So my email is in the description box, but on some platforms it doesn't have a description box. So it's info@tracycolenlp.com. Email me just because I don't often get the notifications that somebody has written a review. So let's get into today's episode. And as I said, it's a little bit different. I hope you're going to love it because we're going to draw some inspiration from someone who is absolutely not associated with horses, but he is indirectly thought of as someone who had a lot of very deep wisdom, and therefore it's relevant to us, it's relevant to any equestrian, and it's relevant to anyone that wants to work on their mindset, improve their mindset, enhance what they've got, because sometimes it's not about overcoming nerves because maybe you've never had nerves or you have overcome them and they're not a problem. But sometimes it's about maintenance or enhancing what we've already got. So the person that I'm talking about today is Bruce Lee. So Bruce Lee, thought of as the martial arts person. If you've never heard of him because you are too young to have heard of him, he was very famous in the 70s. That was kind of like his era, maybe a little bit before, but the 70s was when he was really brought to prominence, and he did lots of martial arts movies. And he was very phenomenal at this. He was, I think I'm right in saying, but I need to probably look it up again. I think he was a Shaolin monk as well. I think he was qualified to that level. Now, what on earth has all that got to do with NLP? Well, when we do our master practitioner, we do break a board. We don't break it like a martial arts person would break it. We break it partially with energy of thought and partially with belief. And maybe that is the same as a martial arts person as well, when I come to think about it. We do it with our mind, basically. So there's that link. But also, when we think about Bruce Lee, he has some phenomenal quotes. And I really love the way he thought, his calmness of approach. And I think that this is very powerful, just to sit back and to think about some of the things that he said and the application that we can make in our riding. So, the first one that I'm going to talk about is he talked about embracing the fear and not fighting it. And by that, he didn't mean feel it and do it anyway. He didn't mean that at all. He meant observe it, be aware of it, and then do something about it. So one of his quotes was, fear comes from uncertainty, and we can eliminate the fear within us when we know ourselves better. So let's just sit with that one just for a second, because fear, especially with equestrians, whatever the fear might be, isn't random. It shows up when something is out of control or unknown. It comes from the what ifs. And Tad James, who is quite a famous NLP person, he used to say, fear or anxiety is a message from the unconscious mind that you're not thinking about, you're not focusing on what you want, you're focusing on what you don't want. And so Bruce Lee also didn't think about fighting fear, didn't think about it as a battle. He believed in understanding, knowing why it was there. Tad James gives us the reason. It's because we're focusing on something we don't want. But when you shine a light on it and you really take a good long pause and you think about, am I projecting pictures of things that I don't want? Am I thinking thoughts of things that I don't want? Am I holding myself physically or breathing in a way that I don't want? And that fear, is it based on a truth or not? And the more you understand where your nerves are coming from, the more power you have to overcome them instead of being ruled by them. You rule them. The second thing about Bruce Lee, probably his very, very famous piece of wisdom, was that he said, be water, my friend. I love that. And he used this to describe the ideal mindset in combat. But it also applies perfectly to riding. Water doesn't resist. It doesn't tense up. It flows. It flows around pebbles. It flows around sticks and branches in the stream. It flows through your fingers if you pour water over your hand. It simply flows around the obstacles. So it adapts, it shifts, it softens, but it still has quite a lot of power. And when we're nervous or tense in our bodies and in our mind, our thoughts fixate and we try to control everything. We try to control things that are outside of our control. We focus on the weather, we focus on the wind, we focus on horses in the next field, we focus on somebody walking by. If we're on a hack or we're out trail riding, we focus on something in the bushes or something that we can't quite see or we can't quite hear, or meeting something that is usually, a bit of a nervous situation for a horse, like a tractor or something like that. But as we know, the horse doesn't respond well to tension, physical or mental, because even if you have mental and you think, but you know what, I can kind of fudge it, I can kind of look like I'm not nervous, but you still will have micro tensions in your body, micro tensions in your fingers, in your elbows, in your jaw, in your tongue. Even these strange little muscles behind your ears will get really tense, and horses can pick up on those. And those are the things we don't think about. You might think about your legs, you might think about um, your core or something like that. We think about big muscle sets, but we don't think about them all. So the horse knows exactly what you're thinking. So, what would it be like to ride and think more like water? Maybe being adaptable. If your horse has a spooky moment, then you know you're not frightened of wind. You're not frightened of a tractor. You're not frightened of people walking by. So maybe it's letting go of the things that we can't control and focusing on the connection with our horses instead. Maybe it's breathing through the process or giving your mind something else to do. For instance, giving your mind end-to-end instructions as you ride and maybe saying them out loud. I'm going to bend here. I'm going to do a center line. I'm going to do a 20-meter circle. I need to put more leg on here because I feel like my horse is falling out, or I need more outside rein, or I need to look round, or I need to move my shoulders. Whatever it is, you're giving yourself something to do that isn't focusing on the things that you can't alter. So that could even be a mantra, that be water as you ride. And that could be your anchor for reminding yourself to be more fluid and go with the flow. The third quote is something else that Bruce Lee said that's quite famous. He said, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." And this speaks really directly to consistency over perfection. So we can often feel quite frustrated when our progress is very slow, or it feels slow. We imagine it's slow, but maybe for the situation that we're in, we're making ideal progress. Or we might beat ourselves up when the nerves come back, when we think we've done with that, we've already moved past that, we've got over that, but they're back. That mindset, just like riding, is very much about practice. You wouldn't expect a horse to learn how to piaffe or do a flying change instantly and then remember it for the next time that you got on. But we would expect ourselves to magically conquer our nerves. So it's about those tiny reps again and again, breathing before you mount, visualizing your ride, speaking kindly to yourself, noticing when the tension creeps in, maybe breathing, imagine breathing into that area. If your tension, for example, is in your hands, imagine the breath going all the way into your hands. Having this routine and doing this routine over and over again. So even when you feel a little nervous or the self-doubt has kicked in, if you're showing up, then that's courage and that's progress. And every single time you ride, you're not only building the trust with your horse, you're building the trust with yourself as well. So one last little gem from Bruce Lee is showing off is the fool's idea of glory. I love that one, especially in the world of Instagram and Facebook and social media, and the Instagram world that we all think is real. I think that's great. And Bruce Lee was obviously miles ahead of his time when he said this, showing off is the fool's idea of glory. So when the nerves start to kick in, just sit back a little bit and think about, am I trying to prove something? Am I trying to impress? Now, I know you might say, well, in a dressage competition, you are trying to impress a judge, or if you're doing showing, you are trying to impress a judge. But think of it to be seen in a certain way. But confidence, the kind that Bruce Lee believed in, doesn't come from that need to impress. It comes by being deeply grounded in who you are and who you and your horse are as a dyad, as a duo, as a team. So you don't need to impress in the warm up. You don't need to impress other people on your yard or barn or farm. You don't need to ride perfectly. It's more coming from a place of authenticity, to be you with all that you are, your grit, your growth, even your grace. And we let go of that performance. And with that, we can also notice when other people are performing, if you like, when you can see that they have that need to impress, and you can notice it now on social media. That isn't their real world. They feel a need to impress. Even out riding, they have a need to impress. Maybe they've got beautiful tack. Maybe they look beautiful turned out, and you're already feeling a bit inferior because maybe you don't look quite that perfect picture, but it's being you and it's being authentic, and that's where your true power lies. So I suppose, just to sum up, Bruce Lee can actually teach us quite a lot about equestrianism. Fear is just uncertainty. Be more like water. Small, consistent practice beats perfection. And real confidence comes from authenticity and being grounded in yourself. So, what would Bruce Lee do? He'd breathe, he'd soften, and he'd flow. And I hope that you can too. I hope you found this episode interesting. Take care, and I'll see you again really soon.